This just happened. I was in Australia on a liveaboard. Won't mention any names, okay? Just generalized stuff here.
Right.
So we're diving, and there was a husband and wife team on the liveaboard. And I would say, Gus, they were probably in their mid-60s.
Okay.
Now, the husband, I know you've seen this before, he was one of those that liked to get on the boat early on and tell everybody how great of a diver he is.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
I've dove here and there, and I have this card and that card. I'm sitting back and I'm smiling, not being respectful. I don't say a word about myself. Just really no time to say anything about myself.
Sure.
Like, that's awesome. That's great. And the wife is kind of more quiet because the husband
proud of the
proud.
husband.
She's sitting next to him. We've been diving together, and I'm like, this is great. Nice to meet you and all of that. Dive 1 of the liveaboard. We all go in. We do a beautiful dive in Australia in the Coral Sea. And here's what happens. We all get back on the boat. Went great. Beautiful dive. Except for them. They're not back on the boat.
Whoa.
So we're on the boat. We see them after a little while on the surface, both of them, a decent ways out. Now, in Australia, you can have a lot of current. Frankly, that's what makes the diving so wonderful.
Yeah.
We see him, the husband, waving, kind of waving. Not dramatically like you think, though. Kind of weird.
Like, come
a
here,
little
kind
bit,
of.
a little bit. The wife next to him is actually not doing anything much at all. She's motionless. She's kind of just still. And I couldn't see this, but what later the facts say, and this is something that most people aren't aware of, what she was actually doing on the surface was she had run out of air underwater. She wasn't buoyant on the surface because there was no air in her BCD, and she was kind of bobbing a little bit.
Wow. So just kicking to keep herself up.
Now, she was breathing for a little bit on the surface, but she was kind of bobbing, and every one of those bobs, because a real drowning victim is actually not panicking and floundering around like we teach in the
Like in the
rescue
movies.
class. Okay? They're really motionless, and it's really hard to see if somebody's drowning. And every time that head bops underwater, a little bit, imagine it's a little bit of... They're sucking a little bit more water in their body. They pop back up for a second, and they get quieter and quieter. Now, the husband, the remarkable diver, I've dove everywhere in the world. All he had to do was orally inflate her BCD.
Yeah.
He never orally inflated her BCD.
Wow.
The dive crew of the liveaboard flies out there on a dinghy, gets her out of the water, I actually do see the one crew member. They ran into the water, by the way, with just their mast fins and snorkel on, pretty cold water. I do see them give 1 or 2 rescue breaths right before yanking her onto the boat.
Wow.
She's dead. Listen to me.
Dang.
At the time they bring her on the boat, she's dead. She's not breathing. The heart is done. They start flying with the chest compressions on the rubber dinghy and haul back to the liveaboard. They clear that deck area. They go into full CPR mode. AED, chest compressions, breaths. It brings her back.
Wow.
We could not believe it. They later, I'm not going to tell you any more of the story, but I will say later, obviously they had to leave, right? They're going to go. You have to go to, medical emergency and all of that. Their diving's done. She doesn't remember much, by the way. She doesn't remember much at all. That's typical for the victim. He's not saying much of anything. He's right. It's pretty embarrassing. I mean, orally inflate. And the rescue team, the staff was saying, look, we've only had this one other time happen in like 40 years. And They didn't come back the other time. Most of the time they don't. It was a miracle. It was the quick response of the staff that got her back.